The election is over. I didn't think that would be a laugh line. The question is no longer who will be our mayor. The question is now, how will the mayor act? How will the mayor lead? Questions we can't answer tonight. What we know is that there will be a mayor of New York City for the first time who is anti-Zionist, and who we know has sometimes crossed the line into anti-Semitism in expressing his opposition to Israel. Many of us are worried. I've spoken to so many of you in the past few weeks, afraid, wondering what to do, what this moment will mean for our children, if not for ourselves. I've also spoken to those in our community who feel these fears are overblown or question that reaction. Asking whether it's reasonable to be afraid, I think, is very much the wrong question. First, none of us really knows the future. Second, it's not how emotions work. Has anyone ever had success saying to their spouse, "Calm down"? So knowing that there's a sense of disquiet, knowing that there's a sense of destabilization, let's ask a different question. A question we should ask whether or not we're afraid, whether or not we're thrilled, whether or not we're deeply ambivalent about the election results. The question is, how should we show up as Jews in light of this week? It's not a new question. It's a question our people have asked as long as we've lived in Galut, in the diaspora. How should we live as a minority seeking not only to preserve our identity, but also to live loudly and unapologetically as Jews, trying to fulfill the command God gave to Abraham, become a blessing? This week's Torah portion contains a parable that couldn't be more timely. The scene is a city tottering on the edge, and its name is Sodom. Torah and our ancient sages, they depict Sodom as a paradigmatic anti-Jewish space. It's inhabited by pagans. It's consumed by values at odds with God's mitzvot. Now, as soon as I say Sodom, you know how this story ends. God's going to destroy the city because of the wickedness of the inhabitants. Into the scene come two characters on divergent paths: Abraham and Lot, his nephew. Both of them left their home when God called to Abraham, Lech Lecha, go forth, become a blessing. But after setting off together, Abraham and Lot go on their separate ways. And through Torah, we trace their steps and we witness two archetypes, two different approaches to how Jews might live as a minority in the diaspora. Lot decided to take his family and to go dwell in the city. In our tradition, Lot is painted as the Jew who lives his life, his Jewish life, in secret, who prefers to keep his head down, who tries to blend in, who adopts the values of the society around him, even those that are antithetical to God's call. Lot will not live counterculturally, nor will he challenge his pagan neighbors. And for all of his attempts to bend and to blend, what happens to him? God will save him in the final moment, but he will lose everything. And most tellingly, he is eventually written out of the story of the Jewish people. His descendants become Moabites and Ammonites, not Israelites. So it's quite easy to discern our tradition does not favor Lot's approach to diaspora living. But what about Avraham Avinu? What about our patriarch Abraham? What's he done since parting with Lot? He created a small utopia devoted to God. Sounds good so far. But where is he living this life of moral example? In no man's land, in the Judean hills, outside of the gaze of most of society. Lot may be living among the pagans and hiding his identity, but Abraham is simply hiding. The rabbis teach that when God called to Abraham, the Holy One said to him, "Abraham, many good deeds are inside of you. Travel about from place to place so that the greatness of your name will go forth in my world." Yet in this moment, we find him rooted in place on the outskirts of society. He is hardly changing pagan hearts and minds. And this is where Torah provides its rebuke. You've heard the one about if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it. If Abraham lives a life of example and nobody is around to see it, is he really a blessing? God shows Abraham the consequences of his retreat from society. Sodom has grown thoroughly corrupt and wicked. The city and all of its inhabitants are going to be destroyed. What does Abraham do? He challenges God, calling this decision unjust, argues with God, hoping to change the fate of Sodom. But in the end, Abraham is powerless to save this city. He hasn't shown the people of Sodom how to live. He hasn't shown them that there's another way. He hasn't challenged their values or demonstrated the corruption of their morals or lifted up the way that they might live together. Instead, he's retreated from the people he was meant to challenge and uplift. And so in the end, he is powerless to do anything but watch from his distant perch as God destroys the city. He is no less a failure than Lot. Torah rejects both of these paradigms of diaspora living and then presents us with a third. Abraham changes course, and his story, as it continues, we see him grow into his mission. He leaves his retreat and begins to travel again. Eventually, he settles for a time in the land of Avimelech, a pagan king. By chapter 20, we see that he has regular contact with the inhabitants and with Avimelech too. They, in turn, see his example. Abraham doesn't try to blend in. He lives proudly as a follower of the one true God, and he continues to enact the call that he received from God. He blesses those around him, living a life of empathy and compassion and welcoming. But he's also not afraid to stand up for his rights. When his Canaanite neighbors seized the well that he dug, and which he presumably allowed anyone to drink from who was thirsty, he calls King Abimelech to task, and he demands that his well is returned to him. He insists on his dignity. He challenges the king, and the king agrees to return what is his, to protect him, to protect his place. And then Abraham engages him and his people in a brit, in a covenant. This is the model the Parsha leaves us with. An Abraham who holds tight to his identity, who blesses those around him and who becomes a blessing, whose example challenges the corrupted values around him and who demonstrates a new path for all of society together, who defends himself and his camp. He becomes the archetype that the Torah lifts up for Jews hoping not merely to survive, but to thrive in the diaspora. We don't know what the years ahead will be for this city, for this country. No matter who you supported in this election, there are real fears Jews are carrying this Shabbat as they look forward to the next 4 years. Recognizing those fears and sharing those worries, I also want to say with unwavering certainty, I have great confidence in our people's ability to meet this moment and every moment forward. We are the Jewish people, and this is New York City. with its 2 million Jews, over 500 synagogues, and nearly as many bagel shops. We are not alone. We are not disorganized. We have 3,000 years of wisdom and practice to bring to bear. And American Jewry is a different community after October 7th. We're galvanized, we're engaged, we're proud, and we're not afraid to stand out and to stand up. We will not be like Lot. We're not going to keep our heads down and hope things get better by blending in and getting by. That's never been our community's way. We will not be like Abraham before Sodom. We're not going to retreat, imagining that we can build the world God longs for alone or from the sidelines of society. This is New York. This is our home. We aren't going anywhere. And we will not wait in our tents to see if someone will wander by and engage us. We're going to go out and talk to our neighbors who disagree with us and explain and teach them about our Judaism and our Zionism and why they are core to who we are and inextricably linked together. We will, as Abraham finally learned, hold a place alongside the many peoples in this city, proud of our identity, true to our values, extending compassion to those in need, holding out hands of kindness to those who will return the gesture, and ready to be vigilant in the safeguarding of our rights and our people's safety and security. We are children of Abraham, and we're ready for whatever tomorrow will bring.